All right, so I'm going to call the September 26th School Building Committee meeting to order at 6:11. Sorry for the delay. We're having some technical difficulties with the streaming, and we will be uploading this video as soon as we can once the meeting is over. So we'll do a roll call. Brian Sylvia?
Here.
Bob Littlefield?
Here.
Welcome, sir. Brian Mahoney?
Here.
Kate Massananti, I'm here. Luke Murray?
Here.
Terry Lynch?
Here.
Michael Pedraza?
Here.
Jim Minnie?
Here.
And Chris Spiegel from Left Field is here. Mark Russo from Gilbane Corp is here. And Mark, and Phil Conti from Studio Jade is here. All right, so discussion, meeting minutes. Meeting minutes has been a hot topic that I'd like to address. As I've stated in previous public meetings, I take full responsibility as the chair of this committee for the meeting minutes not being posted in a timely manner. Even though they are not required by law as discussed by legal counsel, we still owe them to the public in full transparency of our meetings, and I apologize. But they are now being uploaded we have our summer meeting minutes all up to date. They have been uploaded to the Secretary of State's website. Left Field will be moving forward with taking care of the minutes for us. They will be shared with Terry at administration to be put on Secretary of State website going forward, and they will all be linked from our skschoolproject.com website going forward. Does anybody have any questions about the meeting minutes topic that they would, or comments that they would like to share at this time? Okay, great, thank you. We have discussion, administration building. Okay, so I'll start with that, and Brian, if you want to jump in at any time, if I'm not representing this properly, please do. So the reason why the administration building is on the agenda is because we need to collectively make a final determination as to what we're going to do with the administration building going forward as pertains to the athletic fields. Because currently the athletic complex that is where we've budgeted for, that we've put forward in the project, includes track, field, stadium, and it does not include, it's as part of that is not included built-in facilities. And so we need to have those going forward. So we need to make a decision as to what the administration building is going to be used for. So I wanted to put that out to this committee. Mr. Mahoney and myself have had a conversation, Mr. Pedraza, as to get the wheels turning as to what the administration team is going to do and where they're going to live. Are they going to stay in the administration building going forward? If so, we need to make arrangements for facilities going forward. Or are they going to potentially move elsewhere in the district? So it's a conversation that has just started, and so that's why it is a discussion item and not an action item. So I don't know, Mr. Pedraza, if you have any wish to share any thoughts on that initially, or if anybody else has any comments or concerns they want to bring up around that.
No, not at this time. In terms of the overall thinking, the main concerns that we had discussed, or in taking a look, is making sure that the building is accessible was the first priority in terms of making sure that as we move district operations, but based on the current use of that facility, in terms of ADA compliance, we talked about the elevators, in terms of community access to that building in order to get to the administration was my first concern. Be going through with that lens.
And just to clarify, what you're talking about right now is Hazard Building.
Yes, the Hazard Building. Thank you. However, I haven't had a full tour of that facility yet. While I've visited some classrooms and gone and done some subcommittees, I haven't seen it from basement up, and so I'll be doing a review of that building as well as the other shuttered buildings in order to make a determination on which site will work best for the school community.
Thank you. Does anybody have any other thoughts or concerns or opinions on this particular topic?
I do. I met with the superintendent today, with Brian Sylvia and Ryan Fitzpatrick. And so for the people that are watching this, I'm sure the question is going to be the admin building. What would be the alternative? Knock it down, renovate for another the current admin building that he's in. Knock it down, renovate for restrooms or whatever else needs to go there or whatever. So maybe we could clarify that first, and then I do have a comment about it.
So I think that's part of the conversation, is if we need the building for admin, it stays admin. If admin can relocate somewhere else, then the idea would be, an option is to have it renovated to be an athletic building. There's really I don't think there's a reason to knock it down unless we were planning on building a different building on there to be the athletic building. It makes sense, it needs to be utilized, but that's why we need to make a decision as to how it's going to be utilized so that we can make sure that our architect, engineer, and our project managers and our construction managers know what to do with it.
So the comment I would make then is that the town is looking at building a new EMS facility, and the town is also looking to either renovate or knock down, build another EMS facility in conjunction with the hospital or with the DPS building. So one thing we've seen is that it is much more expensive than we thought it would be. These numbers are coming in higher, and it is expensive. So to displace administration, have to renovate Hazard, and then you have to renovate the current administration building, I would assume would be a pretty good cost, right? So, but if it's just to build bathrooms, would it be more cost effective to put it somewhere else, right? But those are the conversations I had with him today. My concern is that we displace them. Now we have a big renovation project at Hazard, and we have another big renovation project there for whatever we're trying to retrofit, which probably is not much cheaper than building new. So that's the concern I have.
Valid concern. Chris, can you weigh in a little bit on Hazard?
Sure. So there is an MOA approval for the Hazard building of approximately $4 million? About $4 million right now. You can move in the administration building. RIDE would have no issue with that because it's part of this larger project. So it would be reimbursable as part of your bond. If there is money in the 150, you could do it. But however, even if there isn't money in that 150, because you have approval, and if there was another funding source, you would also get reimbursement on it. So no matter how you fund it, you are eligible for reimbursement at 50%, as with this other project, whichever one you might do, as long as you do it within the time frame of 5 years. What the current ask of athletics for that administration building is, we do need to build bathrooms for that facility. It would probably be cheaper for us to renovate part of that building and put bathrooms in there. Or if the building is demolished, we could build a small building and just use the water and electrical connections that are already part of that job site. With that being said, we would like a conclusion on this matter relatively soon, in the next 2 or 3 months, because we're going to be bidding out the demolition of Curtis Corner ahead of time to lock in that pricing, just to make sure that that part of the project 100% moves forward. So those are kind of what we're up against on timeline. And that's, if there's any specific questions about the RIDE process on that, I'd be happy to answer them.
So for me, it's not necessarily a process question. For me, it's a decision by our district, not by the school building committee. That's why I'm putting it out here, that we need a decision from the district from the school committee and this administration team as to what we want to do with the admin team and that building. We need a decision so that we can move forward with something. And if that means we keep the admin building and it is used by the administration team, but we have to do something so that there's bathrooms there, does that mean that's not even an option on the table and we're going to set up 10 porta potties that are on the high end and those will be permanently housed at the athletic field? Then that's an option. Not ideal, but an option. But there has to be facilities at our athletic field.
Can I just make a comment? As a person that's going to be at the athletic complex, if we don't have a press box and we don't have bathrooms, spending all that money will be the laughing stock of the state.
No, I'm going to echo Mr. Lynch and say that I'm envisioning our project completed and our community using our new beautiful athletic facility, and then having to go to a porta potty and see our press box be some scaffolding that is jacked up next to the field, and then our community saying this is what we got. It would just be a glaringly unfinished project. So I think we need to have something, and we need to have it match the quality of the facility.
So the only thing I would say is one big piece of this decision-making process is not only, will they be able to vacate or not, because that's kind of a second step. The first step is looking at the athletic facility. What's that general cost? We slotted 11 million, right? So that 11 million can be pushed into different categories. If we're saying bathrooms are a priority, not necessarily a field house, but if we had to build a bathroom facility at X amount of dollars, and then we think, okay, we can get more bang for our buck if we move that into the administration building, we move some of the funding, let's say, from the project into the admin building, and let's say the rest is fundraised for the field house portion. Then that's step two, right? Because if we're committed to providing, at a minimum, a reasonable restroom facility from what we're hearing, that's money we would spend anyway. So that is within the building committee's purview. What becomes out of it is anything that's outside of the scope of the project, which we've said previously was the field house. Right, the field house was never reimbursable. We committed to the community. So I think just in that decision process, and this is really for Chris, is we haven't really progressed much on the fields, and I think we need to do so fairly soon in order to kind of come to that conclusion.
I think every option, no stone left unturned. Like you said, do we build just a facility there? Do we, I think looking at it to renovating, again, from my perspective and kind of some of the initial conversation we had around this with the price and the cost would be using that shell we already have if we are going to go fully admin. It makes a lot more sense than tearing it down and building new. But if we're going to build bathrooms, I think, with our experts looking at every price, again, working in hazards price, and if we can get maybe 3 or 4 options, so we can say, here's this, that, and then again, if we have people from the community who come out and say, I'd like to donate or be part of a fundraising campaign towards it. That's a whole other element that to include into this, separate from, our bond. But
I think one thing we also should do is that renovation is not always cheaper than new construction. So I'd like Phil and Mark, I think we need to take a look at the cost for a standalone building versus the cost for renovation, because that might help the district in this decision. I know people generally seem to assume that, we don't have to pay for walls or a roof. It already exists. But often with abating hazardous materials and partially demolishing buildings and things like that, it can get costly. So I think let's get on that then.
To that end is, in terms of the draft schematics right now, am I correct in assuming that with the school demolished, that becomes, and all of that infrastructure becomes either part of field or parking, and so that infrastructure is not usable or able to be built off of, or is that still up in the air depending upon how things could be, situated? And again, not knowing which way the sun needs to go or all of those considerations.
So currently a field goes where Curtis Corner Middle School is. The parking and all of that infrastructure actually goes to the right, so kind of where the current field is now. That's the layout of the site. We will need to update the schematic design plan for sure, knowing this information, knowing that we want to consider renovating or adding bathrooms into the admin building or a standalone building. Give Phil and his team a couple weeks to draw up preliminary sort of plans that I can get to Mark, so Mark can draw them, and hopefully we'll be able to come back to you and say, from our perspective, just on the bathroom question, it makes more sense to do this as opposed to, and then the admin discussion is a much bigger conversation, but the information that we'll be able to give you should help you with that conversation.
And we do have the athletic boosters that have been in discussion, have discussed with us that they do want to participate in fundraising to make sure that our worst case scenario doesn't play out, so that we do have facilities, that we do have a press box, that we do have adequate bathroom facility for what we're looking to build. But again, we need decisions. We need to know who's going to be where. Is that building going to be able to be utilized, refurbed, and then a cost, so they know what dollar figure they're moving towards as far as fundraising to help offset, so that we do not that we're not going over budget, we're not going outside of scope when it comes to that component, so that conversations are happening on that end. But at the end of the day, the answer needs to be, can we use the admin building or not? Because that's going to be the driver.
And I just want to clarify one thing. Was speaking with some of the other members of left field, just the word press box, and Phil and Chris, the press box I think was included in the design. So the press box is included in our plan. It would be the field house, bathrooms, locker rooms, and any kind of merchandise or food would not be included. But we do have a press box at the top of the bleachers for the coaches and all that. I just want to make a clarification.
Anybody else have anything they want to input at the moment? All right. Thank you. This agenda item will come back to a future, and we need decisions to be made. So, all right. The abutters meeting and sustainability workshop, again, discussion. I'd like to start, if we could, with the sustainability workshop. That took place this Monday at the town council. We had a woman from an organization, a nonprofit organization called Undaunted K-12, and she presented to the town council funding opportunities from the federal government to reimburse tax credit any work around kind of green energy. Would anyone from the town like to give any sort of update on what they took away from the workshop?
I'll just say I actually thought it was informative. Sarah Ross packed a lot of information in a very short time frame, kind of breaking down the categories. I think the big takeaway is there's potentially a lot of money out there. It depends on the project. You have to outlay the money in advance, so that's a consideration for this committee if we're going to commit to things like ground source heat pumps. But it's nice to know that there's options available to potentially fund the project. The biggest takeaway is the council seemed very responsive to it, and so I think that needs to be brought up in the future as we talk about these other opportunities and the potential that we would have to front the funds depending on our first priority is to build a building and build an athletic facility. So if we run into financial issues on fronting those monies, then the discussion is going to be had, how committed are we to grabbing those incentives? So, Brian, did you have anything from financial?
It was mentioned that night that CLA, the town's auditing firm, is prominent in doing work on this, and I have reached out to them. our representatives that I deal with are more on the municipal auditing side, so they're going to put me in contact with somebody that can assist, because this is obviously a different branch of their operations, but I'm awaiting on that, with that response at this time.
Anybody else?
I think it was very positive, not only for this committee, but for the town. It was a very robust discussion, and I really appreciate seeing that as a town member, because I think it opened a lot of eyes on the town end too, of reimbursements the town can look for, or any future planning of projects for my department, for Rich Bourbonace's department, for Mark Russo on the town, just exploring those options, and having a resource now, someone we have who's more than willing to help the town on both sides, looking for more money to further the town was huge.
I was in attendance as well, and again, to reiterate Luke's comments, the presentation was phenomenal, and I'm very thankful that the Sustainability Committee has been with us from the beginning, brought Sarah to us. It was a wonderful discussion about what is available out there. That will bring us into, I kind of tiptoe into a couple other items, but I don't want to hit too hard on them, but we are doing the geothermal test to find out if that's even a possibility for us. And once we have that answer and we know it's a possibility, then funding does become a big discussion about how to fund if we were to go geothermal, and we could, how we fund that, and then having these potential reimbursement opportunities or tax credit opportunities to come back to us. So it will definitely stay on our radar, and we can have further discussions about that. Does anybody have any other questions or comments around the sustainability workshop? If you haven't had the opportunity to watch it, I would highly recommend that you tune into the workshop session of Monday night's town council meeting. It started at 7 o'clock, and I believe it went to about 7:40. The whole workshop was about till 7:40-ish. And then you might want to hit pause. So then that brings us to the abutters meeting. So we actually, a core group of us just came from South Kingstown High School, where we had a meeting with the folks immediately abutting the South Kingstown High School property, and also an expanse around them as well, to discuss the geothermal test pit, and I am going to pass off to Chris to discuss.
So I'm going to start off by apologizing to this committee and to the community. We received the abutters list on Monday of last week, and the postcards were cut and approved on Tuesday. Apparently, they did not get here until today, which is unacceptable for an abutters meeting. We have posted the presentation to the website. So we did get some turnout, because Brian and I did knock on doors for the immediate abutters to the project, people that are most likely going to have see the drilling.
We went out last week. I just wanted to clarify, because there was someone who reached out to me recently and said, I heard today Chris and some guy named Chris and Brian were out knocking on doors. No, we were out last week. And
on Tuesday.
We went down 4 streets near the high school and went door to door with flyers.
So bottom line is we did not, this was an opportunity for us to, we wanted to do this, even though we knew that this work wasn't really going to affect a lot of people, just because it's not noisy really or anything like that. We were hoping to use this as an opportunity to get off on the right foot, and it seems like that backfired, and we're probably going to be dealing with a situation where we're going to have to regain a little bit of trust on this particular issue. It's an unforced error. It shouldn't have happened, and again, I'll take full responsibility for it. With that said, I would like to propose on Wednesday the 2nd another abutters meeting. I will personally come down here to South Kingstown and put mailers in everyone's mailboxes this weekend that lives within a half-a-mile radius. I would propose 6 p.m. on Wednesday the 2nd to have another abutters meeting, just for those other people that can't come. I don't know how the committee might feel about that, but it is something that I propose, and hopefully we'll be able to do it.
Currently, I'm not seeing anything on my particular calendar. Well, you said Wednesday the 2nd.
Wednesday the 2nd at 6 p.m.
Does anybody, before I have any thoughts on it, does anybody else on the table have a thought, comment, question, concern?
You talking at the school again, cafeteria?
I believe that would be the best place, yeah.
So we just need to confirm that that's available. So if you were to do that, what's the plan to notify social media or?
No, well, so we'd appreciate it if you put on social media. Obviously, we'll get another website. I mean, it went out to all the people on the website, the mailers, that kind of thing. I mean, the email list as well. But I'm personally going to put on some boots and I'm going to walk around to however many doors I have to on Sunday to make sure that this goes in people's mailboxes.
Does anybody else have any thoughts they want to share?
It doesn't look like, Kate, I'm just looking on our calendar at the high school, it doesn't look like there's anything in the cafeteria on the 2nd. I can double check that tomorrow morning if you want me to.
I mean, I'm happy to say let's do it, because the more we can do outreach, the better. There were a number of people in attendance tonight. It was very well received. Even the folks who came in kind of on two wheels, because they had just received their notifications like minutes before. We ran through the presentation 3 times for everybody who came in, and kind of came in late and were like a little taken aback. They were wonderful and gracious, and we were able to quench any fears or concerns. I appreciate, Chris, you leading off with that. We don't control the U.S. Postal Service, but at the same time, we want to mitigate any sort of misstep going forward. If that means we put mailings, or not mailings, but if we have any sort of information, it needs to be more than a week in advance anyway. It should be 2-3 weeks in advance that we're planning. I'm happy to say, yeah, let's go forward with Wednesday, October 2nd, for another abutters meeting. What did you say, 6 o'clock?
I think 6 o'clock. I think as we found out today, some people were just getting home from work around 5 o'clock, right? They had their kids in tow, probably didn't have a chance to drop them off at home, or so I think 6 or even 7. I'll do whatever is needed.
All right. All are welcome. Anybody who is viewing this after the fact, once we post this up to.
Maybe Kate, if I might make a suggestion, why don't we do it from 6 to 8? That way we can do the same thing we did today, where we go through the presentation multiple times, so that people, if they can be there at 6, they're there at 6, or if they can be there at 7:30, they can be there at 7:30.
Yep, I'm happy with that. And again, anybody here who wants to join is welcome to join. It is not a school building committee meeting. It will be a presentation from our OPM, our architect engineer, our construction manager. So it is not a formal school committee business meeting.
And I just wanted to double up on what Kate's saying. Everybody's welcome. Anybody from the town, anybody from any other town, anybody wants to come to this meeting, the door is open. The presentation will be for everyone. This is not just for abutters. It isn't a abutters meeting, but everybody from the community is welcome.
Can you give me a flyer?
So just to
Or
repeat,
something to just post on social media?
October 2nd at South Kingstown High School from between the hours of 6 and 8, we will have another abutters meeting about the geothermal test well. And how are we? And Chris is going to hand deliver all the invitations personally.
Yep.
And I would just confirm that tomorrow with you,
And Terry Lynch will confirm that tomorrow.
just to make sure we have.
Just to
it
make
placed.
sure. Chip's probably driving somewhere going, no. So. Okay. Item 5, town review process discussion.
Yeah, so I just want to make the committee aware that we've been in contact with the attorney from the town about potential review under the planning board and normal review procedures. There was an opinion that came back that it does fall under major land development review. So what I'm going to be doing is working to organize a meeting with town staff, and Sam Hemingway, and whatever team from the engineering team from Garofalo to ensure that they're absolutely clear on the timelines that are required. We'll outlay a schedule, make sure they stay on track to move it through the process. And while we're at that table, we can start solving some of the site planning issues, things like utilities, coordination, traffic, et cetera. We'll have all the right people there. So, Jim, did you have something?
So something came up last week, was brought to my attention about a town review, even though it's not really the town, it was the Union Fire District review. Is this an appropriate time to talk about that? It is part of the review, and maybe it's okay? All right. So the town manager in Westerly is building a elementary school, well, the town is, and he's working on it. But he made me aware of a fire district fees that would be due, paid by the town to the fire district. There was substantial fees. I think he told me $180,000 on a $50 million project. So I checked with the Union Fire District, Chief Pinch, and that's correct. There's a state law that the fire districts can obtain a fee by any type of facility being built, to include a school, for review of, the fire suppression systems and inspections and so forth and so on. And also, because the building is such a large square footage that, the Union Fire District would have to build in their apparatus and so forth. So Chief Pinch gave me a number which was very high. He looked into it for me, and the number was about $590,000. So the question I have is this something, maybe we could ask a representative from Gilbane, is this something that the project managers had anticipated? Did they know about it? Or is that built into the budget? Is it not? And by the way, Chief Pinch and I are trying to work out an alternative to that. I'm not saying they're billing us for that. That is what, by state law, they could bill us. So that's the question I have, is our project managers, are they aware of this?
So, A, were you done with what topic you were on? Now, is that part of our scope project planning? Are we aware of this? Either, I know we're putting you on the hot seat, but I don't know if Chris, like from left field, if that's something that was on your radar from other areas.
Yeah, so, I mean, in typical jurisdictions, there's a review fee, that the department's gonna do, and then there's also review fees that the fire departments go through as well. So I don't know if that's the monies we're talking about, but that is not.
That is
not atypical, no, not at all.
It's based on the square footage of the building, really, and the population and so forth.
Each jurisdiction has its own means and methods of having to calculate it, but yes.
Hello. So I do want to be clear, though. If we're talking about a building permit fee or a fire fee, those, on a project of this size, those will be in the millions of dollars. So are we talking about that? Are we talking about, because generally what most school districts or projects like this do is they will waive building permit fees, they will waive performance and payment bonds, because especially with the building permit fee, it's you're paying that money to yourself, but you're borrowing it at a 20-year interest rate. So it's generally what's most, like, some even municipalities actually have statutes that say any public project performed by the town will not be charged a building permit fee. East Greenwich, I know, has that on the book. So I just want to be clear, are we talking about kind of like a little review fee, or are we talking about the big building permit fee?
You're not on.
It is the review fee. That's how it was worded. Okay. And the town manager in Wesley was caught just off guard as I was. The building permit fee, I can't speak, yet, but I mean, it's kind of ridiculous that the town would charge itself to get, but, so that's, I'm sure, something we can work out with, I hope so. But that is specifically the review fee. That's what the verbiage was on that fire district. I guess there's a state law, like you said, so that's something to consider.
And we also have a union fire district that's volunteer-based, so it might be different than some other towns that,
Yeah, so that's the
That's
the
where we're
point I
running to
assumed
this.
everyone knew, but the Union
Yep.
Fire District is not a town entity. It is a separate taxing institution that, they collect the tax already, authorized by law.
The only one that I've actually seen charged is for you can't get around ADA permit fees. That's general, but why don't you and I talk offline? We'll figure out exactly what the cost of this is and if it's something that we need to have a bigger discussion about.
And let's remember, we have contingency built into the project for a reason. And this, if it falls in that category, then that falls in that category. So ideally, this gets cleared up, and that's not the worst case scenario, but it's one of the reasons why we have contingency, so. Anybody else want to brighten my day with something about the town review process?
I'll volunteer our students to wash the fire trucks for the next 25 years, if they'll take a little bit off.
Thank you. And, okay, so let's move on to business item number 6, land swap update. Mr. Murray.
Yeah, I'll keep it brief. So the past 2 council meetings have provided an update to the town council. We had 2 sessions ago, we had a open discussion session, which is a requirement of the application for the land swap. So in order to supply the application, you have to have an open discussion form whereby the public can comment on the potential land swap. And it's primarily geared towards land swaps that would occur off-site in another part of town. In this case, that's not the scenario where we're swapping essentially on the, it is on the same site. So we did have that discussion. There was some concerns brought up by one constituent that I think we did address, more pointed toward the timing and the process and what happens if we don't, or we aren't successful with the land swap. I think we will be successful. I've been in constant communication with DEM. I've expressed that throughout this process, to the point that Paul Jordan from Rhode Island DEM, who is the coordinator for the program, watched the presentation that we gave. I spoke with him on the next day, and he was very positive that we're going in the right direction. So on a subsequent meeting, this past council meeting on Monday, the town council did vote to support an application for the land swap officially. So that means that we can get the application in. I'm working on getting an appraisal and a yellow book review, so it's going to still be a couple months before we can get that in and get it into DEM and the National Park Service. So I guess the bottom line is this, just as a committee, when people ask, it's in process, it looks positive. The question has come up again and again, what happens if we don't get a positive approval? I don't think that's going to happen. There's always a slight chance that it wouldn't happen. But ultimately, my answer was we're building a new high school on that site. So we're full steam ahead. So I asked Kate to kind of keep this as a running update, just so the community stays aware that where this is in process. I know for some it is a concern. So we'll just keep addressing it as we go to make sure that we're communicating on the item.
And just for anybody who's tuning in to the process now, we have been working since stage 1 on this, and Luke has been doing tons of hours behind the scenes with all the groups involved and paperwork, and I thank Luke for that. And that, again, this has been since stage 1 that we've been working on this process.
Anybody else have any comments, questions, concerns about land swap? Business item 7, geothermal funding.
So we just wanted to have an update on geothermal potential funding sources based on the great conversation that Undaunted had with the town council and as a joint meeting on Monday. We just wanted to take a step to remind the group that the geothermal funding question, as was discussed by Undaunted, is not a grant. It is a reimbursement scheme. So if the project is to achieve some of these federal requirements that allow you to get reimbursement, it is an upfront cost to the project. It is not a grant where we get the money and we can just go for it. We will have to build that into our $150 million budget as part of the project. We just wanted to be very clear about that. We don't want people to think that, hey, we can do geothermal, let's go get our money from the feds and go right to it. It is something that will have to be discussed at the school building committee level and the town council level about whether that's something they want to pursue, and if they don't want to, and how they want to fund it. There are different opportunities of funding it outside of just the traditional 150 that we're talking about, but it's a much bigger conversation, and we just wanted to make that clear at this level that that in order to do so, we would need to find the money for it up front as part of the project.
Does anybody have any comments about that as far as what that funding might look like?
So PAYGO is a potential option. As this project knows, we have $9 million in PAYGO. There's been no discussion on how that PAYGO is to be used, whether it's going to be used to pay down debt, whether it's going to be used to do other projects. PAYGO is essentially cash that the Rhode Island Department of Education provides you at the beginning of a project to allow you to do work prior to bonds actually being issued on behalf. It's about $9 million here in South Kingstown, so that is the most obvious potential way of funding if it cannot be included within that base 150.
The Thanks, Terry. You're always very good at audio-visual stuff at URI. Thank you. It was you, Terry. Thank you. So the only exception I take to that part of it is the word scheme. I think it was you.
I think that was, I don't, it wasn't, he didn't mean it in a negative term.
No, I know. I'm just saying someone will, though, who hears that. So it's a scheme is a nefarious thing, but I mean, this woman came in with genuine information. You know, what he's saying is totally correct, and we'd have to upfront the money, but I think it was never anything to make us go down a path that we didn't know what we were getting down. That's the only thing I would say is I take exception to that one word, that's all.
A project pathway for funding sources for geothermal.
Perfect. I appreciate the clarification. I understand what the intent of the word was as presented, but I appreciate the clarification for the general public. I do think, well, yes, it needs to be discussed at this level. It's the town council decision. Once we find out, can we do geothermal? Then it's, okay, this is how much it's going to cost, and then how are we going to fund it up front that isn't part of the $150 million? And that is a town council decision from my perspective, but we present them the scenarios from our body, but it will definitely be on the town council's table.
So just a couple things we probably could do to lay some groundwork. One of the things is, and this falls on the design team, as we look at these schemes, we've talked about it, but we never got.
Using that word.
Sorry.
As we've looked at the schematic
as we
designs.
looked at these options, we still haven't really, we've talked about energy savings, right? We really got to get to a sense of it before we would go to council and inform them. How much would be the recapture on that? Could the school district use that recapture towards funding those renewable energies, right? So that adds on to the reimbursement we'd get from the government, and then you recapture some of that energy savings, which could be in agreement with the schools to do. But those are numbers the council's going to want to see, and it's going to weight the argument. If you're paying down 50% of the debt that you would take, or the PAYGO comes back, or the reimbursements, or however, whatever type of options we work with, that's data we need and we can work on now. There was another point that came to mind, But I'm trying to, Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank and other funding available. I think that's the other thing we need to look at. There's PAYGO, which we could, potentially utilize, but there's also other funding depending on how we're paying down the debt that might make sense. I don't expect interest rates to come down to where they were, but there may be an option in there as well over the next year that we could present. So the last thing I'll say is this. We need something in writing. And Phil, I know you're very good at this, but I presented to the council a couple of months ago on PAYGO, and I tried to really walk everyone through it. But then I'm still getting questions on how PAYGO works. Documenting something in a reasonable format so people can follow how PAYGO actually works. They don't write you a check. That's not how it works. Understanding that you only get that 35% reimbursement, like breaking that down to a level where people can truly understand how PAYGO works, including the council, who's probably going to hear it and forget. We can re-give them that document when we make this presentation and educate them before we have the presentation on renewable energy. So when we talk about PAYGO, they can have in their mind of, okay, I get how this funding mechanism works and how it applies to renewable energies and all the reimbursements. So I think continuing to educate is going to be a big thing over the next year as we have this discussion. Thanks.
So I think just to kind of bring to our specialists here is PAYGO and funding for the project overall and what that looks like, geothermal costs, and then long-term picture of savings for the district. I think if we have those 3 bullet points in front of us and to present to the council, we'll be able to come up with a decision.
And please know that Sarah, the woman who presented on Monday, is a valuable resource that she will assist us going forward when it comes to operating savings going forward if we go with geothermal and how that would offset different things. But she's dedicated and committed. She's let us know multiple times that if we need her to continue to educate and to help step through, she's available for us. So that was quite helpful as well. Anybody else on geothermal?
Just one question, if I could, Chris. If we spent the money up front for the geothermal infrastructure and it was outside of our $150 million project, say, does that still qualify for the same rate of reimbursement?
So you have a reimbursement based on the high school at 150 million, and that's your MOA is based on location. I would have to check with RIDE. RIDE has got special bonus points just for sustainability and things like that. I don't have an answer for you now, but typically you're maxed out on your MOA at 150 million for this site, for the Columbia Road School Street site. So I would have to check. If it's included as part of that 150, you would get reimbursed on it, and you would get reimbursed. There is a potential to get reimbursed on it then, and then also get reimbursed from at the back end of the project. But I'm sure that has probably already been looked at. I don't know, Luke.
I feel like you just confused me a little bit. But okay. So to his question, so what you're saying is if we don't do PAYGO,
mm-hmm.
and we fund the geothermal out of the 150, we would get the 50% reimbursement. His question is, if you're funding it using PAYGO, what is the percent of reimbursement?
Oh, it's 35%.
Thank you. Was that, did I, okay,
yeah.
thank you.
That's what I was looking to hear. Thank you.
Anybody else on geothermal funding?
Just
okay.
Along those lines, is there any way to amend, I think I know the answer to this, but to amend it above that 150 specific to renewable energies? Like, does RIDE have a process?
So what RIDE might allow you to do is, because especially Dr. Da Silva, he's such a champion of sustainable technologies, you might be able to do an MOA amendment, but you would have to shift money from another project into the high school. Or maybe there's a pathway, because this would be the only geothermal public high school in Rhode Island, and there might be a different pathway. That's a question for Mario Carreño, who thinks out of the box with this type of stuff. I know that there's particular passion for this project going geothermal at the Rhode Island Department of Education. They might be able to work with us and figure out a way that we can work this into the project.
So when would be the time to have that conversation?
Tomorrow. Yeah.
Okay, I was at the abutters meeting with you, and a woman brought up, it's a point of interest, I think. A woman brought up that she heard there's a geothermal well in Wakefield already, and there's a Verizon building in town, and I checked with our town engineer and DPS director, Rich Bourbonnais. He said, yes, there is. There's a geothermal drilling that was done at the Verizon building in Wakefield and about a year and a half ago, and it was successful and it works. So just a point of interest that we learned tonight.
So on that topic, I wonder if there's a way we can kind of find out from them what kind of cost savings, and where is it?
So it's, if you go through Wakefield, right across, right pretty much near, on the same side as the CVS, a couple of doors down, a couple of doors south. It's a big brick building. It says Verizon on it. Yeah. 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 It's something you drive by 1,000 times and you never really see it.
It's the old telephone company.
Yeah,
Got
yes.
it. Got it.
Yes, that's a good point. I'll have
That's a
Rich,
good townie. So what?
the old Verizon building.
Yeah, it's like
whatever.
the
Very
old, across the street from the old.
Across the street from the
Yeah.
CVS, down the
Yeah.
road from Brickley's, yeah.
Yeah, two
But
driveways down
yeah,
from the
that's a
old
good
Heritage
point. I'm
Farm.
gonna have Rich Bourbonnais reach out to him and just see how deep they had to go, their success, and so forth.
Beautiful, that would be lovely. Thank you. Anybody else? Geothermal funding going once, twice? All right, so item number 8, discussion design update. Phil, come brighten my night.
Good evening, everyone. So a couple things while we're still talking about energy cost and sustainable systems. Part of our schematic design submission that we need to make the ride around the end of October, November, after we've gone through the estimating process, is a life cycle cost analysis on the mechanical systems, and it has to compare a number of different mechanical systems. During the stage 2, we gathered utility bills, so we know what your electric and gas costs have been at this site for a 240,000 square foot building. Projecting forward, 155, 160,000 square foot building that will be intended fully air conditioned and almost all electrification. We will project to the best of our ability what those costs are. I want to caution anyone who's thinking that there's a massive energy savings because you currently are not air conditioning your building. This new one, you will be. Yes, it will be more efficient. Yes, we'll have maybe even geothermal, which will make that less costly. But it will be during that life cycle cost analysis that we will have very good data to prove whether this is the proper path. At that same time, Gilbane will now have factual data on the drilling, how complicated was it, how easy was it, etc. So I'm pretty confident that we'll have a lot of good information to make the most informed decision. That's all. So that information will come, but I really don't think you'll be there until like November. Regarding the design, I'm here representing obviously Studio Jade and my partners, the SLAM Collaborative. We are putting together a schematic design package that we're going to turn over to Gilbane and our third-party cost estimator, who will be running parallel cost estimates so that we can reconcile them together. It will also include work at Curtis Corner, which right now, at a schematic design level, we understand the intent. It is an 8-lane competition track, turf field, parking, all the infrastructure associated with that, bleachers, and a press box. The only thing we don't have is this bathroom discussion that I talked to Brian about earlier at our previous meeting and said that I'm happy to assist in trying to work through that. I also believe for the superintendent, we may have done a preliminary plan at Hazard of moving administration there. So we may have that information that I could share as well. So specific to the high school, I just have 3 slides. I want to assure the community and the school building committee that the design as it has progressed through our meetings with the administration, through others, agencies, is very much the same that we had in the stage 2, in that I identified first the side that faces the proposed fields and the side that faces School Street. That concentration of blue right there in the center is our administration. That's our main entrance. That's the same area that it was planned previously. To the right in green is the gymnasium and the locker rooms. To the south of that is the auditorium and the arts department, and to the far right is the construction tech. That's all very similar to what we had proposed previously. Moving over to the left in that cyan is the cafeteria, the kitchen. Open up to that main entrance, the vestibule, that's where that blue administration area is. And then to the left is the academic tower. The most significant change you see here is the academic tower at one time ran left to right, as opposed to running up and down here. We're trying to make, and SLAM is doing a very good job of this, of trying to make this thing as tight as possible. Gilbane will want as few corners as possible as we start to construct this building. The auditorium is right now has 725 seats in it. Again, we're projecting a school building for 725, although our enrollment at the time of the submission was like 680. So we are trying to project for some additional growth. Next slide, Luke. The second floor contains a walking track over top of the gym and fitness room in that green area where the gymnasium was, a balcony to the auditorium and platform component. That maroon color is more pathway and CTE, programmatic spaces. Media center areas that are open to below where the cafeteria is, and then the second floor of our academic tower. The yellow are classrooms, the orange is flexible science labs that we are stacking on all 3 floors. We want to give you as much flexibility as possible, and Chip and the administration, as superintendent, as much flexibility as possible in this project. And last floor, Luke, is the 3rd floor, very similar, right? We're going to recognize a lot of efficiencies by keeping the academic tower as consistent as possible. And that's what we've done with flexible science labs, and being the orange, and then the yellow classrooms, then the core spaces in the middle, which include a lot of those things that we talked about before: small group rooms, flexible spaces. We do have a very nice feature that goes from the 1st floor to the 2nd floor, which is that academic stair, that main communication element. Luke, if you don't mind going back to that 1st floor. It's in the lower left-hand corner of that cyan area where the cafeteria is. That is sort of our stairatorium. It's a double-use space. So we do not have any design elevations to present tonight. Really what I wanted to show you in these documents is that the overall intent, size, shape, orientation of the building is very consistent to where we started, which is good for everybody. That really concludes my design update. Mark, I don't know if you have anything to add to it, what your process will look like over the next few weeks in terms of estimating?
Yeah, we have our estimating team lined up and on board, so as soon as the drawings come to us towards the end of next week, I think is what we had talked about, it's going to be about a 3-week process for us to go through our estimate. I can't speak to the other estimating team, but I would say after about 3 weeks, we should have our number ready, and then probably another week to just sit down and digest it with the design team. Each of the trades, electrical, mechanical, plumbing, architectural, each of those will sit with our estimators and review what we've put down on paper. and then we'll get together with the other estimating team, like Phil mentioned, and just combine the two for a submission into RIDE.
Good, Girth.
So I just wanted to follow up on this process. The design that you see right now has a lot of wants into it right now. It has the second floor walking track. It has things like that. The building is about, so I just want to confirm the process. The process is that we get these numbers back, we present to everybody, and then we make sure that we are on budget for the project. And then once we confirm that we're on budget, we move into the second round, which is design development. And again, at design development, we'll also be seeking approval from the committees that have jurisdiction over this. We'll do any changes to the site, but I want people to know 100% that what you see on this paper right now at schematic design, it is inevitable that this design will change from what you see right now to what is eventually delivered. Every single project, it changes. Right now, it's a very basic floor plan. As we move forward and we make the building more efficient, although they have done a great job, Phil, in making the building very efficient, as we move forward, the building will change slightly, but the major programmatic elements that you see will not change. You know, it's about how can we deliver the most value for the project, and that means, like Phil said, figuring out ways to reduce the amount of corners, figuring out ways that we might be able to lay things closer together to save a couple hundred square feet here or there. So every square foot counts, you know, about $700. So we're trying to figure out a way to make this as efficient as possible.
Does anybody at the table have any questions or comments about what they presented?
I just wanted to thank the design team. One of the charges we gave everybody involved here was flexibility and future planning. And every meeting we've been in, every design we've seen, that's been echoed by every element involved with the design team. And I really applaud you guys for all the work that went into making the spaces flexible, making this in 10, 20, 30 years as things change and shift with technologies and programs that will have the ability to do that. We're currently in our older buildings. It's very tough to switch programs or switch where English classes or science classes go. With the design elements you guys have worked into this, it's very impressive.
Anybody else? I agree with what Brian just shared. It really is. Oh, yep, go ahead.
I'm sorry, one thing I do want to begin speaking about will be in a little bit more detail for Terry in particular, what the fine details that we want to start talking about at Curtis Corner. So I want to just put that on everybody's radar screen over the next couple of weeks. I think part of that is, Luke, that will start to surface when we had this meeting with Garofalo talking about approvals and stuff like that. I know Garofalo has been out to Curtis Corner a number of times after rain events, not recently, obviously, but looking at some of the drainage issues that were mentioned a number of months ago. So just put that on your radar screen, is that we'll be having that discussion in a few weeks.
Phil, could I ask, I'm thinking back to the conceptual renderings that we had and looking at the orientation of the academic tower, and now I see that the academic tower has kind of taken a 90-degree turn. Could you tell us what would be the advantages of making that change from the conceptual to this?
I don't want to speak for Mark Rhodes at SLAM, but I think it really had to do with just its orientation onto the site, fitting it in, not wanting to get too close to the school, although we're going to be close to the existing high school, making sure that we're able to maintain adequate pathways for construction as well. So I would probably say that shift was site-driven.
Yeah, that makes complete sense to me, so that we would, well, do you envision that because of this, we would be able to have that access to the existing building? And
yeah, I would say that this shift sort of improves the situation of the building related to the hazard building and the interstitial space in between.
Okay, thank you.
I appreciate that, and kind of to concur what Brian said, thank you for all of this. You've heard us every time, whenever there's a conversation, and every time someone kind of gets micro-focused on what we need for 2027, we make sure we are reminded that this is also for 2035 and 2040. So you guys are doing a great job with that, so I appreciate it. Anybody else? No. I would like to entertain a motion to update the agenda with public comment.
I'll make a motion to add public comment to our agenda.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That passes. Thank you. So with public comment added to our agenda, please come and just state your name for the record, please.
Oh, there we go. Master's degree and everything. Hi, everyone. I'm Janine Silversmith. I'm on the Sustainability Committee, so thank you for having the work session on Monday night. Couple of quick things and then my usual. First, for the abutters meeting, if it's going to be from 6 to 8, I wonder if on that flyer or whatever that you write, drop in any time so people know if they can't get there by 6. I've just found that to be useful in my own work. Maybe that's obvious. Second thing was, there's a rumor, I hope it's a rumor, that this high school is going to have a completely flat roof. And I think it's because people look at the conceptual drawings and they think, oh, it's all flat roof. But I hope that that's not the way it's going to be. This is not my expertise, but I think in terms of being like solar ready and for stormwater mitigation and all of that, I think, maybe I'm wrong, that you're supposed to have a slanted roof. But anyway, people are getting fired up about that.
So just in terms of your stormwater comment, even quote-unquote flat roofs are not flat, right? Because we have to deal with the storm drainage. So they have what's called crickets in them, which are slight deviations in the roof which allow water to drain to the correct places and drain into the building, into underground storage. So it's not like there's going to be a pond of water, on the roof. It's just it's a way of designing it. But we can get into architectural specifics, I think, of a flat roof versus a slanted roof in a much longer discussion than I think for here. I'm happy to have that with you.
Thank you. I'd like to have that at some point, and then be able to quell people's freaking out about it. Some of them.
To that point, I'd like to make sure that discussion is public.
Okay. Thank you.
And I just want to say, Jim and I were afforded a design review session, as was the other members of the building committee, and it was something I also brought up because I'm concerned just architecturally about the building and how it looks and whatnot. What I was told, I'll tell you what was told to me, which is it's not finalized yet. We're going through cost considerations. Obviously, pitched roofs are traditionally more expensive, and the more detailed features you get into. So it's not off the table, right, Phil? But it's not there yet. So nobody should be, blasting us yet. So.
Yeah, it's not me freaking out. It's literally other people I talk to that are like, and I'm like, just wait, let's find out some more information. So thank you, Phil.
So to your point,
yes,
as they've said multiple times, and I know you've heard it and you know it, but we'll say it again and again and again. All this design is subject to change. There are no finals. There's no definites, except for the fact that the project is moving forward.
That's the important part. And the last thing on that is that if it has anything to do, if the shape of the roof can allow for future solar energy capture, I just hope that's being taken into account. And I know I'm going over my time. So my last thing is, obviously, I'm going to say again, please take advantage of these federal funding opportunities, and not just for geothermal. I really hope that works out because that'll be beautiful. And I know it's really difficult to lay out money for projects that are going to get reimbursed later. I run a small nonprofit, so cash flow problems are like my life. And so I just urge you to push hard on the town council, as I will, to either use that PAYGO or find another bucket of money so that we can take advantage of this, because it's really a missed opportunity. There's so many millions of dollars, and people aren't taking advantage of it the way that they should be. So let's do that. Thank you.
I appreciate that, and I'm just going to call Phil back up to the microphone real quick so we can address the, I'm assuming, pitched roof situation.
Sure, I just want to speak to the being PV ready. So part of the RIDE requirements when we submit is that the structure of the roof, regardless of whether it's flat or sloped, has to be designed to support future PV. The electrical distribution also needs to be in place to accept PV, which means in the electrical room, we need to leave room for the inverters, and that we need to run conduits from there up to the roof in preparation to receive PV. So whether or not we have PV on this building, you will absolutely be PV ready to do that installation. Oh, photovoltaics. PV. Solar, I'm sorry.
So hang on, so we have some side chatter, and I'm confused, but please repeat that clarification, because I think that was exactly what you were just asking over here.
Okay, so when I said that the building will be 100% PV ready, PV stands for photovoltaic, which equals the solar system. Oh, Jesus, a solar generating power system. All right, thank you.
This has been a long day and a too long meeting, and I apologize to anybody who's watching right now or not, or going to be watching. Any other public comments? Anybody else want to come on up to the microphone?
Hello, Doral Beasley. So, I'm going to say this one more time. There is no alternative to geothermal that will get this building the sustainability that you want. There is none. If geothermal doesn't work, this will not be a net zero carbon neutral building. But the presentation on Monday, town council presentation, to me was very enlightening about all the federal funding mechanisms there are for this type of energy system to be put into your building in your town. So I'm still having a hard time why you guys are seem to be just always like bashing around the cost of this thing. If the well is successful, you're going to save tons of money. You're going to save money because you're going to have federal funding to actually drill the wells, put the equipment in your building, and then you're not going to pay for natural gas for 50 years. Anyway.
Doral, may I address why we do that? Can I respond to you?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, we do that because we're preempting public doing that. We know what you're saying to be true, which is why we're going through the process that we're going, and we desire that result. But we have to look at what's real in our world around us, and we know what's going to be pushed back on us. So we're just preparing for the conversation because you and I both know that it will happen, right? So we're just prepping for it.
Okay.
And I don't know if you were here yet, Doral, but we did put it out to the three groups that we want a very detailed presentation to come in front of us and in front of town council of funding sources we have currently.
Oh, I heard that.
Okay, you did. Okay.
But like like Phil said, I'm fried too. All right, so like Phil said, the analysis of the well, they're going to put the well in, they're going to take these measurements over 2 or 3 days, or whatever it is, then they're going to take that data, then they're going to put it in some kind of computer program, I'm assuming, and analyze what the quality of that well was, as far as how, what the cooling and heating prospects of having that well and a bunch of them, the number you would need to take care of your building. So, and then that data will have to go back to the architect to figure out what the systems are going to be put in there. How many geothermal heating units you would need to actually accept all of that capacity from your well field. So, like you said, you're not going to probably not get that maybe until November. Okay.
Anybody else want to make a comment? Go for it.
Public comment. I just wanted to let Brian, the school department, know, and if you guys need to let the town know, that I will be down here tomorrow at 12 with the abutters notifications. So, Brian, I don't know if people see me walking around. I can wear my left field hard hat, but I'll be down here tomorrow at 12, and I'll probably wrap up around 7, I think.
Okay, let's get a confirmation from Terry in the morning, and we'll give you the thumbs up. Thank you.
If you want to, Chris, come by I can give you a badge. I think just having a representation of that you're our vendor, so because we have been asked in the past, do you actually work for the town and things of that nature.
Anybody else have any comments they want to wrap up with? All right, next meeting, agenda number 9, set next meeting agenda and agenda items. So for the record, again, October 2nd, 6 o'clock, 6 to 8, drop-in welcome at the high school, second abutters meeting. After that, we are looking at, what did we say? We were going with, was it the 3rd and, because we're back to Wednesdays. This is not our normal day today. Maybe that's the problem. So do we go with October 2nd or the 16th? October 2nd? Can't do October 2nd because that's the abutters meeting. So October 16th, or do we need a meeting in between?
Is there anything approval-wise we'll need to go in front of council or anything before then? No?
Is there another location that we can look at if we can't be here on the 16th? Yeah, okay. So we're going to shoot for October 16th, and Luke and I will discuss location offline. We will also want to plan for the next community forum, because we had discussed the end of October. I don't want to wait until October 16th to make that plan, because then we won't be properly notifying the community, in my opinion. So do we want to pick a date now, or do we want to, do we want to pick a date now? For me, it would make sense. The rate of speed time is going, looking at November 11th week for a public community forum to present schematics. We'll have answers to questions about geothermal, or we should. Veterans Day is the 11th, so then we could look at the week. So the 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th.
The 13th would be a...
You shut off, and so I think what I heard you say is the 13th would be technically a school building committee slotted meeting, and we could use that for a public forum. Does the 13th work for everybody in the room who needs to be here? All right. That would take place here, Town Council Chambers, November 13th, and we'll keep that 6 o'clock slot and maybe run till 8. Does that work for you guys, town folk? Okay.
We're gonna have that at school?
We had the last one here.
You're gonna hate me. The 13th, we have municipal court.
This was your idea. We can do it at the school. Now that I say that, we have to check our calendar,
We
but.
can do it at school.
But no, we can check the school, we can check the school. So again, let's plan for the 13th, the next community forum, and we'll talk offline its location, and then we'll make sure we publish that adequately. Okay. And agenda items, as always, please email them to me ahead of time for any of our meetings. Okay, I'm going to wrap it up because we're significantly over time. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That meeting adjourned.
7:31 p.m.